If you're joining us for the first time, it's glad to have you here. Welcome to our Montessori town halls. I see some familiar faces as well. My name is Camilla. I'm the community and school growth manager here at Nido Marketing and Montessori Thrive, and our community hosts these free Montessori leadership town halls every Thursday throughout the school year as a space for leaders to come together and talk about school leadership, school growth, and sometimes we talk about marketing. Today, we're going to focus on planning events specifically for parent education and retention. This is a topic that we've talked about here and there before, and it's always great to revisit because retention is something that we're always looking for new ideas on and strategies. This is very much an interactive call, so if you want to ask a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself, or you can also just drop something in the chat and we'll keep an eye on it and read out your questions and make sure that they're answered. All right, just a little overview of what we're doing today. So we'll have a little time to get to know one another. We'll talk about parent ed from the start. So how you can kind of plant those seeds early on about your expectations for a parent-school partnership, what it means to join your community. We'll also talk a little bit about what it means to market 3-year programs. Usually in the Montessori space, we're working on a 3-year cycle, and our programs are the best when parents complete all 3 years. So we want to make sure we're using the right marketing terminology. We prepare parents for that commitment. And we'll talk as well about hosting events for school engagement, education, and retention. Building a sense of community and providing families with support is such an effective way to increase retention and to hold on to those students for that 3rd year. We'll also talk a little bit about open houses and tours. I consider tours to be an event, even though technically it's not something that you're always organizing. It's not something that's like a big blowout event. It's something that you're consistently doing and you're bringing people into your community. And it's important to have great strategies for tours, and tours ultimately sell parents on Montessori. We'll also talk a little bit about just building a community that lives your mission, because when that happens, retention becomes a lot easier. And hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A as well. So first, I'd love to get to know one another. I'd love to hear where you're joining us from. If you're looking to improve retention, you can feel free to drop that in the chat. So I'd love to know what school you're joining us from, why you joined today's call. Are you struggling with retention or struggling with parent education? I'd love to hear a little bit more about why you joined today's call.
Okay, I can start.
Hi,
my name's
Catherine.
Catherine. Hi, my name's Catherine Bowen. I'm the head of school at Quest Montessori School in Rhode Island. And I joined today because our retention isn't too much of an issue, but I want to do more parent ed. And I find the most challenging part of parent ed is getting parents to come to parent ed. It seems like the people who you really want to have don't come, and the ones who always come do, continue to come, which is great. But and I'm finding just participation in those events to be less and less. So I'm interested in hearing how other people get their attendance up.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Wally here from Crabapple Montessori. Welcome back, Wally. Katie from Amelia Island Montessori School Outreach Coordinator, looking for any good ideas that we're not already using. Okay, so hopefully we'll share some strategies on how we can not only plan great events, but get parents to join. Renee, I am from the Renaissance International School. We're in California. We would like to work on retention and would love new ideas for parent education. All right. Wonderful. Hopefully today's town hall we'll be able to exchange a couple of ideas as well. So feel free when we talk about different strategies to drop in the chat what's worked for your community. All right, let's get started. So when does parent education begin? And the answer is immediately. So right at the beginning, the first impression that parents are probably making of your school is on your website or on social media. You should always be finding opportunities to educate families on the benefits of Montessori. So take those opportunities from early on to showcase what your approach to education is, what you value, and what you value from your community as well. So we always say that, believe it or not, good marketing can help, particularly content marketing when it comes to Montessori, just the content that you put on your website. So make sure that you're creating those moments that parents are going, oh, this is interesting. Oh, I'm learning a lot about Montessori. This is something that's piqued my interest very early on. Some verbiage that you might want to use is, Montessori is not just a daycare, it's something that is building a strong foundation for a future. We are a school. We are here to learn. We have trained educators, especially for those schools that have early education programs like toddler programs or primary programs. And just to include those learning opportunities on your website and social platforms. So showcase your philosophy, your approach, answer frequently asked questions about Montessori, um, try to address the misconceptions about Montessori from early on. All right. So on your website, just some parent ed content that I recommend having is a what is Montessori page. You should always have something like that, or about us, where you kind of talk a little bit about your philosophy. Blogs and articles if you can. And you don't necessarily have to publish your own blogs if you don't have the capacity to, although that's always best. You can also always reshare articles, reshare YouTube videos that you find. Offer some parenting resources directly on your website. Realistically, there are parents who are probably not going to come to your events, but it's always good to have something on your website that they can download, they can engage with, maybe a website or a parenting blog that they can check out, um, a book recommendation for Montessori and parenting. Um, I also recommend having lead generators on your website. So what this is having, a document perhaps that's Montessori versus daycare. What's the right choice for my child? What these kinds of documents do is they kind of help you weed out the parents that might not be aligned with what you're doing, because obviously a parent that is looking for more of a daycare solution, somewhere where they can drop their kid off and pick them up, is not going to be the parent that is going to be very involved in your community, that's going to have the best partnership with your school. It helps them make a more informed decision, and it also helps you lay out those expectations and include plenty of testimonials. Just some more examples here. And this is what I meant earlier on by marketing your programs as 3-year programs. You want to stress the importance of the kindergarten year, or that final year of the 3-year cycle. And you really want to highlight it as the most essential year. That's the year where everything is coming together. All of the work that that child has been doing for the previous 2 years is coming to fruition. They are now the classroom leaders. This is where they become confident, independent individuals. So highlight that so that parents know, and stress this as well in the tour. Say this is a 3-year program and we feel strongly for the best results that children stay for that kindergarten year or that 3rd year. And of course, just find these opportunities, these pockets of learning and teaching about the Montessori approach. And you can talk about on your website how your school is all about a parent and school partnership, and it requires teamwork for the best experience for that child. This is an example of that lead generator I mentioned earlier of Montessori or conventional, or you can do a Montessori versus daycare. What's the difference? So this is a great opportunity to teach parents a little bit more. And of course, your blogs. I recommend having at least 3 testimonials on your homepage and throughout. And I would really recommend having a couple of testimonials about your parent events, or any type of great feedback from that 3rd year. So to increase retention and just to let families know that your parenting resources are very helpful to current or past families. And of course, take the opportunity to continuously teach and engage on social media. Every time you're having an event, you should be promoting it on social media. You should be posting it and sharing about it. And you should also just be taking social media as an opportunity to showcase your approach to education, the benefits of Montessori, and educate parents. And also through email nurtures. I also think that email nurtures are great for getting people to come to events or sending reminders. Oftentimes, people need several reminders, and sometimes even after several reminders, they don't join. Um, but it can never hurt to just send those constant reminders. SMS is also great, so text reminders for parenting nights. Um, get creative with your strategies for improving involvement. Something else I recommend is just finding fun, creative strategies for reminding parents about events. So a couple of years ago at a town hall, someone said that something that they do is they wear special color t-shirts at carpool when there's an event, and it kind of says like, ask us about our upcoming parenting class, or handing out physical flyers sometimes, something bright. Um, but if you really find that other forms of reminding, such as email or text, is not working, get creative and do something that stands out a little bit more as well. Um, so here I have an example, and I will be posting this on YouTube, so you can always reference these, and they're also up in our Montessori Thrive collection. Um, these are more specifically for retention purposes, but having email nurtures and email marketing in place is great. And something that we encourage with these email nurtures, specifically one for the kindergarten year, is it's a series of about 6 emails. And you're just reminding parents that it's time for that kindergarten year. This is the most important time. You can invite them for a one-on-one meeting about, what's the best decision for them. And hopefully we'll get them to stay on for that 3rd year. All of that can be very, very helpful. We have a bunch of different resources available on Montessori Thrive for those of you who have access, white papers, Montessori answered one-pagers, all of this you can use to start the education process very early on, and post these things on your website and share with parents. And again, I highly recommend just marketing your programs as 3-year programs. This is a huge game changer when it comes specifically to retention. And lay out that expectation early on. Something we also recommend doing is having parents sign a commitment form. Um, we have a copy of that in our Thrive collection, where you're basically saying to parents, sign this paper saying that you understand that our program is a 3-year program and you plan to stay for the kindergarten year. You can even make them pay a non-refundable deposit towards that 3rd year, and just, maybe offer a discount on the 1st month once they get to that point. So these are just some strategies you can take to kind of set that expectation early on. All right, let's talk about events. Now, parent education events, I think, are a crucial part of just having a Montessori school. It's something that many schools do and organize. It's important to have a couple of events throughout the year that educate families. What we have found in our own Thrive community, because we do organize parenting series, the optimal times for this are a month or so after their child is enrolled. So usually around October or February are really great times usually. So it's not in the way of holidays, it's not close to Thanksgiving or Christmas. So those are usually great times to get parents to come to events. It might vary per community, so definitely see and observe how attendance fluctuates throughout the year. Also, when it comes to planning parent ed events, you really want to think about what is going to allow these parents to see the benefits of Montessori firsthand in their own homes. I think oftentimes in Montessori, we are so numb to our own language. Like sometimes I don't think realize we're speaking and using vocabulary that parents don't understand the way that we do. All of our terminology is very, very normal to us, but it might be very confusing to a parent. So we want to make our courses approachable, and we want to offer them practical strategies that they can apply at home, because that is going to leave them walking away saying, wow, that was really helpful. I can't wait to try this at home. And also, it allows for the children to receive similar messaging at home and at school. So while it's great to teach them about the materials, I know lots of schools do kind of like a walking Montessori journey. I think that's great. But you also want to have just some practical parenting courses, something like positive discipline, something like dealing with tantrums. This is something that every parent has had to experience and wants some strategies that they can use, or just some reassurance that they're doing okay. Um, and I also recommend coming up with ways to make these events accessible. We had someone join one of our town halls once that said that they offer free childcare. So they basically open up a home environment room or their after school hours room. They hire the teacher there for the hour or two. And one school even did something like this and offered the kids pizza for dinner. So the parents had a huge incentive for coming because they knew they could just leave the kids there. The kids would be fed. They're walking away with these new strategies and they can go home. So, you know, parents have busy schedules, so it's good to work with them. Also consider on offering online. I know it's always lower engagement online, but I think it's, for working parents or for parents that maybe don't have someone that can take care of the kids, it's something that makes those events more accessible. So just some ideas to keep in mind when it comes to planning these events. Let's see here in the chat. If a family has a child and a toddler and one in primary, we will not enroll the toddler sibling in primary if the older child didn't stay for the full cycle. That's a good approach because you know that the same thing is going to happen with that younger child. So um, our engagement is higher online. Oh, see, every community is different. And sometimes parents appreciate the flexibility and they're like, you know what? I don't have an excuse not to go because it's online. So definitely experiment and see what works the best. You could always do both. You could offer an in-person and an online, and parents can choose depending on what they're most comfortable with. But I think it's good to have options. With your tour, I consider this an important event of sorts because this is usually what sells parents on Montessori. So you want to make sure you have, a very organized tour formula. You want to help them understand what they're observing in the classrooms. A lot of parents might not know. They might not know what the materials are for. They might not get it. They might not have ever been in a Montessori environment. Provide resources on the success of Montessori. Proof and evidence is extremely important to show, especially when it's a non-traditional schooling method. It's not the public schooling method. And you also want to, answer any questions, introduce the philosophy in a way that's very digestible. And I think it's important to set expectations on the tour as well and say, this is very much a parent and school partnership type of community. We don't only support the children in the classroom, but we believe in supporting parents. We offer a variety of parenting events and we encourage and expect our parents to participate in at least a few per year. That's part of being enrolled at our school is that expectation, and make that known. Um, and also just, mention Montessori is a way of life, and your school will provide resources so that children and parents will thrive. I think, and you know what? I think after COVID, parents are craving community. They are craving that support. I think a lot of parents feel very isolated, and it could be good for you to extend that hand and say, we're a community, we're here together, it takes a village. And we ask that the parents that enroll at our school participate in the resources that we're offering. Um, Something that I think is magical for parents to witness is these authentic classroom visits where they're witnessing a day in Montessori or what's going on in the classroom. Um, Something that you can offer is an observation guide. So families know what they're looking at, what they're looking for. And we have a great one in the collection here, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of share it here. So you can hand them an observation or tour checklist and kind of things to look out for, to see, to observe, like what are they seeing in the classroom? The children are independent. It's peaceful. It's usually much more quiet than other environments. Um, what is the teacher doing? They're not usually commanding everybody at once. They're observing, seeing when is the opportune time to give a lesson. Um, you can point things out about the environment. You can say, see, this is a multi-age grouping. This is why we do multi-age groupings. The older children are the leaders. They're showing the younger children. The younger children are learning alongside older peers. So when you have this observation checklist of sorts, it kind of can help the parent see a little bit more and understand what they're looking at. Open houses are other events that are important to plan. These are not maybe so much for retention, they're more for getting parents to enroll in your community, but they can also be a great place to plant those early seeds for long-term retention. Um, I highly, highly, highly recommend having student ambassadors or parent ambassadors at open houses if you can. And these are usually going to be your star parents, your star students, people that are very much living and breathing your mission, and invite them to come and talk to parents. Parents love to talk to other parents who've gone through everything. It's the same reason why when you go on a college tour, who's giving the tour? It's usually a student who's been there for a year or two. And it makes the experience of touring that environment so much more authentic because you're hearing it from someone who has lived it, who has gone through it, and there's a level of trust there. Um, so I recommend doing that, and especially those people that stayed in for their third year, for the full 3-year cycle, and have them tell parents it's so worth the kindergarten year. By the time my child went to elementary, they were advanced. They were in advanced and gifted. It was a very easy transition, and I'm so happy that I stuck with it for that full 3-year cycle. So have parents there that are, basically saying this is worth it. Um, I also recommend just providing some parent education resources here as well. Have some one-pagers printed out. Um, make it very engaging. Some schools can, I mean, you can even offer a parenting booklet, something like that, that can really leave that parent walking away with something that they can use day to day and apply. Not only I think is that going to keep you very top of mind that you're giving out these free resources, but I think it's also going to give them some practical strategies that'll hopefully be helpful for parenting. Of course, you can always organize something like a Montessori showcase. I know some schools do this kind of thing where um, the child will give a lesson to the parents on a certain material or a work that they really enjoy in the classroom. You can set up interactive stations or demonstrations where families can explore Montessori materials. You can engage in hands-on activities. These are really great because parents can really see how excited children are to teach them how to use these materials. I can't remember what town hall this was and who this was from, but we had a school say once that they have a student give part of the tour to parents. Obviously, this is probably an older child. This is probably more elementary, but the parents walk away from that being so impressed that saying, "Wow, this child is so confident and so well spoken and clearly is thriving in this environment," and that really does sell that parent. I see here in the chat, Catherine, but we have done student panels where alumni answer questions from prospective families and talk about their experience transitioning into high school. I think this is wonderful. And that's what parents get excited about because they think that could be my child, someone who's so prepared, who is confident, who's independent, because that's the kind of children that Montessori creates. So I think there's something very powerful there. Again, when it comes to offering your parenting courses, I know I mentioned some of this already, but I really do believe parenting nights should focus on what Montessori is and as well as how that can be implemented at home. Think about creating catchy titles. What are the biggest pain points for parents? You can even ask, take a poll. What are they interested in learning more about? Do they want to deal with power struggles? Is this something that they want to learn more about? How can I overcome a power struggle? Tantrums. What activities should I be doing? I don't want my kid to be on an iPad. What are developmentally appropriate activities for my child to be doing at home after school? These are the kinds of parenting classes that um, offer practical solutions. While it's great for them to learn about the Montessori philosophy, it's not necessarily crucial for a parent to know everything that a guide would know in the classroom. That's the guide's role. The parent needs to know what can I apply at home to give my child the most well-rounded experience so that he can thrive in school and they can thrive at home. I also recommend just always providing some take-home resources, some a PDF, a printout, and a follow-up email. Send them something that they can keep a hold on. It can be a good reminder. Something that's really great is just like a mistaken goals chart. If you've ever had a positive discipline workshop in your school, it's free. If you just Google mistaken goals chart, that's a great thing that parents can take home. They can kind of put on their fridge or keep a picture of it, and they can understand their child's behavior better and how to approach it the right way. Um, I also want to make sure to answer questions, provide applicable practices, and again, make these events accessible as we mentioned earlier, and come up with fun and unique ways to get families involved and just accept that not everyone will join, unfortunately. I do recommend if this is something that is an issue, the parents are just not coming, you are doing everything you can think of to encourage families to come and they're still not there. I highly recommend implementing some sort of parent-school partnership agreement as part of the enrollment process where it makes it clear that parents are expected to come, let's say you're hosting 3 parenting events a year, to at least one. They have to come to at least one and apply that pressure a little bit. You know, you can say, I noticed you weren't at the first 2 parenting sessions. Can I expect you to come to that last one? It's going to be really great. I'm happy to answer any questions. Obviously, you're not going to kick them out of your school if they don't come, but you can apply that pressure, and parents, they, I think they want to show up deep down. It might just be overwhelming or intimidating, or they don't want to feel judged. But I think, apply that gentle, firm hand and say, this is part of being in our community as we offer these resources. And you can also ask them, is there a reason you're not coming? Is it the scheduling? Is it not the easiest for you to get to? Because we can try to work a way around it, or we like to get feedback so we can plan better for the future. Kind of put them on the spot. Um, I think they'll be much more willing to show up to at least one event. A couple of parenting course examples, I know I listed a few, but some that we noticed have worked really well because we, again, at Thrive, we do organize parenting series, and these are the ones that always have good turnout. Planes of Development is a good one because it gives some insight as to our approach to how we see development, how they can kind of best meet the needs of their child at every chapter. And it gives them a lot of strategies for parenting. They know, for instance, oh, the first 6 years of life are so important. I need to really be there and nurture my child. They walk away with good takeaways. Positive discipline. I think this is now just a very common phrase used in the parenting world in general, not just Montessori. But I think offering a positive discipline workshop is great. Tantrums. I mean, what parent doesn't want to have some strategies for dealing with tantrums, or just reassurance that it's normal for children to have tantrums. It's so nice when you have other parents that you can sit there and you can say, yeah, my kid threw a fit when I said he couldn't have this piece of chocolate at the grocery store. And a parent says, me too. I had the same problem. And they find this connection, this community. They feel supported. Prepared adult is another great one for parents because it can kind of allow them to see what we as Montessorians do to prepare ourselves to meet the child's needs. And that's something that they will need to do in their home. So how can they be better prepared for their child? And of course, Montessori home environment. How can you make your home more Montessori friendly? You can set up, corners for your child to be able to dress themselves. What kitchen tools are great for children to be able to, help out in the kitchen at certain ages? what activities are good for children to do in the home. Um, these are things that leave parents walking away with good idea, good ideas and good strategies. I'd love to hear what other courses you provide at your school that have had good turnout, that you feel like, wow, parents gave us really good feedback on this particular parenting class. I'd love to know what's popular. I know one time we discussed these types of events, and someone said toilet training. That was our biggest one. That was our biggest, most attended one. So it's great to see and measure which ones just give you the best feedback. Neurodiversity, especially in elementary years, this is great. Yeah, so see what the anxious child. I can only imagine how helpful that is, especially in a post-COVID era with anxious parents too. So it's good. And you can always also, if you're have a couple of ideas, you can always take a poll from your community. What parenting courses should be offered this year? What are you most interested in learning about? So when people have a say in what events you're planning, they have more skin in the game. They are more willing to show up. So that's always good to get them involved. Maybe pick 5 different topics and say, we're having 3 sessions this year. Which topics are you most interested in? And parents can vote. If you need parenting course slide decks, like if you give, a presentation and you invite parents over, we have a couple of slide decks in our collection. If you want one to be made, request one. We can always work on creating more. And also check out our past Montessori Thrive parenting series because there are some great workshops there, and you can always, take ideas from there or share the recordings with families. Um, all right. Parent socials, I think, are also important. So it's great to have events that are specifically for learning more about Montessori or parenting, but sometimes it's nice to just have events that are about connection and supporting one another. That can be very important as well. Um, so let's see. I see here in the chat. I find parents are more likely to attend if an expert is speaking. Absolutely. And there are several consultants out there that do coaching sessions either virtually or in person, and it might even be, easier for you to hire someone to give a coaching session to parents rather than ask one of your teachers who's probably very overwhelmed to do it. So that's a good point. Now, when it comes to parent socials, it's just fun to have these events that are about connection because what we find is millennial parents, which is now the majority of Montessori parents are millennial parents. They crave connection, especially post-COVID. A lot of them are isolated. A lot of families have 2 working parents. And many people don't necessarily live close to family nowadays. They might have to relocate for work. So having this space for connection can be a great way to build a stronger community, and that will ultimately result in better retention. So things like book clubs, starting a parenting book club. You might read a book that's parenting related and then a fun book, and a book that's parenting related and a fun book. Have a parent at your school organize this. Maybe you have a parent committee and someone can organize this and encourage people to join. Coffee meets. This is maybe for a parent who's busy. Early in the morning at drop off, you can set up a little coffee station and it encourage parents just get down, get free coffee, and chat to parents and catch up before you head into work. Something like this can create connection. And we know that when parents feel a sense of community, they are much less likely to walk away. If they're going to a book club, if they're going to regular coffee meets, if they have friends in the community, they feel happy there, their child is happy there, they're not going to be so inclined to go to a public school because they're going to be saying goodbye to all of that. Um, so it's good to invest in this and put energy into this. Potlucks is another great one. It's just a great opportunity for parents to get to know one another. Some schools do something like this at the start of the year where current families and new families are joining. The new families are asking questions. They're engaging. They're having fun. And of course, fairs and festivals, if you have anything like that at our school. Um, we had the Festival of Nations that parents loved. They all brought food from their cultures. They got to meet one another. We were fortunate and had a very diverse community, so it was very interesting learning about everybody's backgrounds and cultures, and it really created a space for connectivity. And it still had a Montessori feel to it because it was in our environment, and Montessori is a global approach. So events like that really make the school stand out. All right. Moving up nights is another event that you might want to consider having. I'm assuming this is also the one that was mentioned earlier when you have that student panel. This is an event that is great for that. So you have nights that are specifically dedicated to those third years, or maybe when they're transitioning to a new program. So when a toddler is transitioning to primary to lower elementary. And you would see this as well in public school settings. Like if a child is moving from elementary to middle school, there's usually something like this. And what this does is it just allows parents and students to prepare themselves for the next chapter. They get to be excited about what's coming. They get their questions answered. I recommend, again, inviting student or parent ambassadors to these nights. That should be probably the most important element of planning these moving up nights. Provide families with a packet of information about what they can expect from this next chapter, what changes, there might be a couple of things that are different about the environment, about how the day-to-day works. Um, what is going to happen if families are choosing to leave your community? So if they're going to the public school, how does that transition process work for them? And you can prepare them for that as well. And again, just a bonus tip is to offer free childcare, or if they're older children, they'll be able to sit in on the moving up nights themselves. Um, but just make these events accessible. This is just a sample event calendar from one of our member schools, Hollis Montessori, from a couple of years ago. And it's great to kind of have listed out all of the events at the beginning of the year so parents can input them into their calendar. And you can always say, you have to come to at least 3 of these events. You have to. So make sure that you make room in your calendar this year for at least 3. So we had a speaker and film series. So kind of a movie night where parents would come and watch a film that it was educational, and we would maybe provide snacks. Or we invited a speaker here. And then we also had parent programs. We had the Montessori Journey where they get to come into the classroom, see the materials, learn about what they do, um, discover upper schools, great lessons, Montessori in the home. How can you set up your environment? So from this, parents can pick out which 3 or however many you want them to come, they're going to join in on, and they can have it in their calendar well in advance. And you can send those constant reminders. You can wear the bright t-shirts at carpool to say, hey, it's this week. This week we're having our speaker. We're really excited. We want you there. Um, so it's great to lay that out. These are just some examples of kind of like a presentation that you could do for a moving up night, or um, why Montessori kindergarten. You can offer this as a special info session for why we do 3-year cycles. We actually have this template. It was contributed by a school in our community. So if you wanted to use this and maybe you can make edits, we have the template in a Montessori Thrive collection, but something like this, it really can help answer those questions as to why. The reality is the majority of parents will walk away because they just want their child to be in a public school setting in the kindergarten year. But I think if they sit through a session and they really get to hear from parents who've gone through it, it can be that big decision maker for them. Here are just some more slides from that presentation, but feel free to check that out on Montessori Thrive. We have all of these resources. Are there any events or courses that have been beneficial to your school? So any kind of, do you do parent dinners, maybe any sort of events that you have found has built community, built connection? and has been well attended and well received. I'll keep an eye on the chat in case anyone shares. Some additional resources you can always share on your website or on social media is just places where parents can learn for free about Montessori, things like podcasts, share podcasts on your social media, on your website, blogs, articles, any newsletter, newspaper article that you find about Montessori. And you can also use your parent handbook to maybe dedicate a page or two about, um, parenting resources and parent education. Again, if you need any of these resources, we have so many of them available on Montessori Thrive, our marketing content on parent education resources. We have all of the presentation slide decks, all of that. And we also have our ongoing Montessori parenting series, which is happening this month. We had our first session last night, which was great. Lori asked, are there any podcasts that anyone would like to share? Yes, please recommend. I I believe she has a podcast. Simone Davies, I think, has a great podcast. I think she is more for toddler and primary, but I recommend looking into that. Montessori Voices. And the great thing about podcasts is you don't have to produce them yourself necessarily. You can just recommend to parents, hey, this is a great podcast to read. We recommend it if you're, if you want to check it out, and they can listen to it on during carpool or while they're doing groceries. All right. These are some quotes from the community. So we asked around the community kind of what events have worked well, what parenting sessions or community gatherings have they organized. This person said, we try and cultivate community by hosting monthly coffee and conversation, several community events throughout the year, and ask our room parents to plan monthly classroom meetups, park, play date after school, coffee after drop off, both for kids and adults. We hold parent education classes on the importance of the kindergarten year, as well as transitions between levels and more. Students bridging to the next level are invited for a visit to that level in the fall before enrollment opens, and then again in the spring. I love this approach because I can only imagine how excited that child is when they come home and they say, Mom, Dad, I got to go to the bigger classroom today and it was really cool. So I think that's great. There are student showcase nights that the whole community are invited to, such as science fairs, poetry readings, night at the museum presentations. Middle school students give enrollment tours once a month to showcase the breadth of the ages we serve. Admissions gives other tours. Upper level students volunteer in lower level classrooms and listen to readers and visit with students. This promotes the visibility of older students and offers an expectation for the little ones that one day I'll get to volunteer too. So this is a school that just has so many ideas on how they can create a culture of, you will say in our community, this is going to be you one day. I think that's something that's very special that they've clearly put a lot of thought into. This person here says, we use Blooms as a cloud-based platform that has an app. Teachers, admins, PTO leadership, team coaches, troop leaders, etc., all have access to send updates and messages to members of their corresponding groups. Additionally, school-wide communication is posted there. Families have access to message each other and their teachers. And we also post photos in individual classrooms, groups, and also school-wide. We publish a weekly newsletter using this platform with the calendar updates and link to our weekly blog. We also print posters for events and send home flyers when needed. So this is a school that is implementing a lot of communication into, how can we get people to stay engaged? We understand that the people are getting text, people are getting social media DMs, but we want them to focus on our community. I think the use of this app is great. Having that communication with your classroom too. These are people that you get to know very well, especially when you're with them for 3 years. So I think that's great. And this is just a shout out to our current Montessori parenting series. Last night we had a great session on child temperament. And next week, we're going to have a session with Ashley Obst from Australia. She's going to be talking about integrating Montessori into your family's routine with parents that join the virtual Zoom call. So we look forward to that. All right, I want to open it up to any other questions or comments before we wrap up. Feel free to share your ideas as well for events.
Mela, this is Wally.
Hi, Wally.
Do you have a sense of what is a good number of such events that is practical? I mean, I know it can get overwhelming. If you have, like I saw in one of your sheets that you showed, there are almost like 2 events a month that I think in the chart that you're showing. So do you have a sense in terms of what is a good number to really shoot for in a given year?
I think it really depends on the programs, how big your school is, how many programs you're offering. Because Hollis is a school that had many events. They had primary through adolescent. So they have several different age groups. So not every event is going to be applicable to every parent. They had an adolescent parenting event. They had a setting up your home for someone who's in children's house. So it really depends. I think a good expectation is for parents to maybe attend something like 3 or 4 events a year. I think more than that sometimes can be overwhelming, but it's always good to offer because you have those parents that are super involved in your community and are going to want to do more. I also recommend having parents plan some of the events, at least the ones that are for parent community. So maybe your school can just focus on organizing parent education nights. That's what your staff can dedicate, time and energy to. And you can delegate, potlucks, book clubs, coffee meets. You can delegate that to parents at your school who are very, involved, very happy to volunteer their time, and they can organize that. And it's also good when I think a parent is leading those types of events.
One thing that we found in our experience with regard to retention is what we call informal education process that works directly with the teachers and the parents. Informal things, either, some teachers are very good in communicating with the parents on a regular basis about what's going on in the classrooms, the children and all that. And the teacher that does a great job seems to have the highest retention compared to formal. At least that's been our experience.
Yeah, and I do think that just goes to show that those parents that do come, that are there, they're the ones that are most likely to stay in your community longer. They get the most out of being enrolled. Any other questions or comments? Let me see. Next week, we are being joined by a lovely community member, and she's spoken at several of our town halls. Rupali Sharma. She is the director of the tech schools in Massachusetts, and she's going to talk a little bit about tapping into the potential of children that have of neurodivergent children. So I think this will be a great topic for Montessori. So we look forward to a great discussion next week. You can use the same link, the town hall registration link. Just register for the next date, and we can see you next week. And this recording will be available on YouTube later today on the Nido Marketing channel. So if you want to reference any of the notes or any of the documents that we shared, you can do that on our YouTube channel. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining, and have a great rest of your Thursday. Take care.